Okay, it's War Dogs. It's 2016. I've not seen this movie. It's basically stars Jonah Hill in a directed film by Todd Phillips. It's a dark arms dealing comedy, and Hill's character Ephraim de Veroli is described as a mix between a whinnying horse and a large metal door in need of some grease, whatever that means. This has got tinges of a documentary, and I'm trying to look for others. Miles Teller is in it. He plays David Pacons. Teller, of course, was in that movie about the drummer, A Bigger Splash, and a good one it was as well. It goes to a similar place, and I'm describing a review here as The Wolf of Wall Street and The Big Short does, and there's some decent music from Creedence Clearwater Revival. Bradley Cooper plays a shady arms dealer, and Kevin Pollak chips in as a partner, a silent partner of Bradley Cooper's, who's very self-righteous and working for Israel. He doesn't recognise that he's being screwed by the system. So that's my intro for this movie. The opening scene is being narrated by Miles Teller, who's an arms dealer, and he's being caught by some bad guys from Albania, apparently, that are threatening him. One would assume that they're not happy with the business deal that they had with him, and he introduces us to the concept of do we know what war means? Well, it means many things to different people. Life, death, money, poverty, you name it. David Pacons, Miles Teller's character, as I say, introduces the narration, and we see him going from job to job, trying to make a living. We see him as a masseur for massaging rich dudes in Miami, and he then moves on to trying to sell expensive bed linen. Of course, this is all preparing us for his move towards selling military hardware, which will be coming a little bit sooner. The motivation really was to make money, and he wasn't particularly enamored by legal activities, as we see him blatantly parking in places that he shouldn't park and smoking marijuana in broad daylight. So he's got the motivation to sell things that ain't good for you, or are bordering on the illegal, if the price is right. A scene worth noting: after David gets to meet his old pal from high school, Ephraim, who's clearly a Jew, they share stories about their career or lack of it, and we find out that Ephraim is into arms dealing. They share a few bits and pieces, having met at a wake, so to speak. And then Ephraim encourages David to come along to him. He's going to see somebody. They turn up at sort of this place where Ephraim wants to score some dope. He gives the guy 300. They're African Americans. Clearly they sort of live in a sort of less salubrious part of town, but they're sort of drug dealers. But the black guy, surrounded by all his mates, sees Ephraim as a rather overweight, sort of middle class whitey. Basically denies that Ephraim's giving the money and shows him his weapon, and his mates suggest that he gets the hell out of there. So Ephraim then walks back to his car, goes to the trunk, opens it and pulls out an AK-47, and then walks back towards the black guys and shoots his gun in the air and scares them to death. He then tells David that he's got a license for it, and this is a shakedown to these lads not to mess around again in stealing money under false pretenses. And we immediately get an illustration of the type of character that Ephraim is. He ain't gonna be shit on by anybody, and he's got the power and the weaponry to talk the talk, so to speak. The film, as it evolves, it's right in my wheelhouse, because there's the politics of the fact that, you know, selling guns and selling arms is basically a very lucrative business, and whether it be at a micro level with Ephraim and now his assistant David making gobs of money by being the middlemen between arms dealers and arms buyers vis-a-vis the Pentagon, the US military, and lucrative companies that sell arms. There's also a subplot as the impact on these small players who are actually earning large amounts of money, and through Ephraim he feels that he's so smart that he can buy anything with his hugely acquired sum of money. And we see quite an amusing situation where they're in a strip bar and he tries to buy one of the cocktail waitresses by suggesting that he could give her a large amount of money if they, as he says, move to the third date, which basically means she giving him a blowjob in his car. However, he comes up short when the boyfriend emerges and basically senses that this fat creep is trying to get off with his girl, and he ends up muscling him. But Ephraim is quick to rebound in a sort of bistro, and he's prepared to take the knocks, these minor knocks, because the wider picture is he's making huge amounts of money. And young David, of course, now that his girlfriend is pregnant, is in need of reliable work, because the selling bed sheets has basically become a non-starter, and he bought a lot of stock and it's sitting there earning no dollars. He's now motivated to get work with a reliable source of income, and being assistant to Ephraim and working out the dealers and the customers, including foreigners in different countries who require arms, and so he's sucked into the lucrative business of working for Ephraim. And of course the message is really that we hear it. Ephraim sells his products to both sides in a war conflict, which is exactly what is happening. And he makes the point that he doesn't really agree with war, but he does agree with making money through war. And that just about sums up the stance of the huge impact that the American government and military are having in conflicts around the world, because they're turned on a dime. Their belief, start off from, we're passionately with a particular country, for example Ukraine, and we really want to help them, and then a little bit later down the line, when they've made a huge amount of money, they can then distance themselves and say, we think now's the time to have a diplomatic solution. But they have of course already made huge amounts of money in the private sector by paying for the product with public money. In the film there's a pause when they have some cryptic philosophical message, and I've just read one. When does telling the truth actually help anyone? That's an interesting thing to ponder on. This follows when the pair of them are eating in a diner, and David receives a telephone call confirming the $600,000 contract that they've just secured, and the contracts are getting bigger, and of course David starts to realise that his 30% means that he's earned more with this one deal than he could have earned in a lifetime doing massages, as he points out. The contract, the arrangement, becomes somewhat comedic when the guns that they want to move to the US Army force in Iraq are Italian, and the guns arrive in Italy, and Italy won't release them for transfer to Iraq. So they then decide to route the guns to Jordan, and then from Jordan they'll then continue by transporting the guns through Iraq. Once they then have to go to Jordan to try and sort this out, and they get caught up really in the whole operation of sort of gun running, buying people off, putting themselves at risk, as they have to buy favours from a guy who's in charge of the illegal transporting of weapons from Jordan to Iraq, and they end up in a lorry with the guns, travelling by night at a very high risk of being caught and possibly executed by other militia groups that might be on the road. So anyway, yes, it's become a little bit comedic, a dark comedy, one might say. At this point, the film becomes more comedic and more farcical, really, as they become drawn into, let's get a bigger contract, and it's almost a case of, you know, being in the right place at the right time. But in that, the fact that David has had to constantly lie to his wife, that relationship is on the slide at the same time as he was increasing his own wealth, and it's a message about how you go about achieving these things, and how much compromise you're prepared to do, and how much self-respect you are prepared to lose with people that are important to you. But overall, the film becomes almost nonsensical. The film, I think it's worth reminding oneself that this is based on a true story, however farcical it might appear, and so it really does also draw to one's attention how things can come in front of oneself in life, and you can get sidetracked into believing that you're more important than you are, and that you're beyond capture, so to speak, and a lesson in how greed can actually lead you down a sorry slope, but it can also enable you to change the course of your life through the faces that you come across. So there's two sort of issues: a road, circular road that can basically take you to the highs and then return you to the lows, and then also a road that appears to be constantly troublesome, but at the end of it you can actually end up in a better place financially, that is. So it's quite an interesting scenario, really, and the fact that this particular movie looked at the armaments industry, one could actually consider any sort of industry or any profession, and a similar sort of circular route could be created. Anyway, worth a watch. War Dogs. 2015.